Welcome to the Siljander Podcast, where you will find actionable tips, tricks, and strategies for the millennials. In this show, we will dive into content that will teach you how to live with more ease, confidence, and authenticity. Here we will start with a foundation of compassion for ourselves, and then spread that compassion to others. We believe that this chain of acceptance and fortitude can radically change our families, communities, and beyond. And I am your host, Laura Siljander, yoga teacher, mental health coach, outdoor enthusiast, and lover of red wine. So grab your headphones and get ready to learn, grow, and to be inspired to live a life filled with intention and wellness. If you like the show, follow me on Instagram at practice_compassion, or check out my website, laurasiljander.com. I am so glad you are here, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to the Siljander Podcast. Again, I am your host, Laura Siljander, and since this is the first episode of the Siljander Podcast, I wanted to take just 1 minute to introduce who I am and who you are listening to. So again, my name's Laura, and I have a background in exercise science and a master's degree in clinical social work. So pretty much I am trained to be a personal trainer. I know a lot about the body. And then I moved to the mind. I worked with obese people for a while who suffered from disordered eating. And then I realized that as much as I worked them out and gave them those tools, that there was something deeper, more psychological about weight gain, weight loss, and maintenance. So that's what made me get my master's degree in clinical social work. And now I have my own business where I focus actually more, I switched a little bit more on millennials, mostly women, dealing with millennial issues such as ageism, sexism, depression, anxiety is on a full-time high right now, stress management. I'm also a yoga teacher, so I like to incorporate a lot of the 8-limb path, and if you have no idea what that is, I'll probably get into that on a later episode. But I like to introduce yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and mental health all in one. So that's just a little bit about me. Some other things I love to do is I live at the beach. I love to surf. I'm also a mountain woman, so I love to hike and bike. So that's just a little bit about me. And so let's dive into the content today. Today I really wanted to talk about a topic that's near and dear to most women's hearts, and that is beauty, and that is the way we look. And I'm not going to sit here and have a kumbaya moment of how we all should love each other and accept each other. I do believe this, and I wish this was the case. But I really want to get into more of the nitty-gritty on a more micro level, what's going on with you. So I want you to think about redefining your beauty and what you think about it and how to reboot your beauty so it's authentic to you. So I have some statistics here from an analyst at Goldman Sachs that estimates that the global beauty industry consists of skincare, and the amount of money that goes in every year to skincare is $24 billion. Makeup in the beauty field is $18 billion. Hair care is $38 billion, and perfume is $15 billion. And this is globally. These are huge numbers that we are spending so much money on in the beauty industry. However, I was reading an article from the Choose Your Beautiful campaign that surveyed 6,400 women worldwide. And I have some statistics for you here too. 96% of women say they would not use the word beautiful about them. So they wouldn't use the word beautiful to describe who they are. 78% of women said that they don't feel completely confident about their beauty. 32% of women say that their biggest beauty pressure is the one that they place on themselves. So being that that's 32%, we're getting a little bit better in our numbers there. However, 7 out of 10 women believe and agree that beauty is more about your physical appearance. Also very interesting. A more uplifting statistic is 80% did say that they agree that they have something, or women have something beautiful about themselves. What do these numbers tell us? We're spending a lot of money on beauty, but we aren't feeling beautiful. Now, the word beautiful means something different to everyone. We all look at that probably in a very different way. But the beauty that kind of gets shoved down our throat by Netflix or Instagram is physical beauty. It's how long and thick our hair is, or how smooth our skin looks, or how thin we are. That's more on the Caucasian side of things. In other cultures, it's beautiful to be curvy, but in the right places. So beauty is still that very physical essence of who we are. And I would love to take a step back and figure out what beauty actually means to you. But first, I want to have a girl-to-girl moment where we're in our bathrooms or our bedroom and we are looking at a mirror. Usually it's a full-length mirror or from waist up. And we're usually either not clothed or just barely clothed. And we start pinching ourselves. I call this body grabbing, where you'll grab maybe your stomach or you'll grab maybe your thighs and you'll start pulling them back and manipulating your body to where it looks a little bit more thin in the right places. And then you go down that rabbit hole of, if only I could lose these last 5 pounds. Maybe it's 50 pounds if that's where you're at. We're all in different places. If you're a child from the 90s, you've probably seen the movie Mean Girls. And if you haven't, I recommend watching it because it is a good movie. But there's a scene where there are 4 beautiful girls in the mirror manipulating their bodies, pulling their skin back to look less wrinkled, even though they don't have any wrinkles. And they're each body shaming themselves to each other. This body grabbing, this body shaming can send us down a rabbit hole of filth, of self-criticism. And sometimes this can manifest in other places and in other ways. I have found it sometimes that when I don't have a good view on what beauty means to me, I start doing the comparison game with either the girl who's in the checkout line next to me or perhaps someone else in my yoga class, and I start comparing my body and my performance to hers. And she has nothing to do with this. It all stems from me, which is why I think it's so important to find what beauty means to your authentic self. What does beauty mean to you? And where did your ideas of beauty come from? And is it working for you? My journey started when I was about 28 years old. I took a trip from North Carolina to Colorado, where my wife and I packed up our tiny 13-foot trailer and made our way across the country almost for our summer road trip. We do this every year, and I look forward to it every year. But it was on this trip where I reframed the way I thought about beauty. I was in the mountains. I was in the middle of nowhere. There wasn't a lot of cell phone service or Wi-Fi. I didn't have a lot of mirrors to look at. I also only brought the essentials of what to wear because we're in this tiny trailer. I had maybe 4 outfits total to wear. And it was here that I started to reframe what I thought beauty was. It was here in the middle of the forest or in the middle of the desert terrain, depending on where I was, where I felt the most free. I was free from anyone or anything telling me what to look like, what to feel like, or even what to smell like. I was just there with my wife and myself. And it was here that I was able to give myself the space to figure out, what does beauty actually mean to me? It was here that beauty actually looked like my body as a vehicle getting me up a mountain somewhere, or my body fueling this bicycle underneath me to push through the forest to get over boulders. It wasn't until then that I thought, wait, maybe beauty can actually be something different than what I've always thought of it as, such as flawless skin, fit body, perfect clothes. It could be something different. Beauty could be more realistic, it was more attainable, it was more authentic, but it was also more healthy. Instead of criticizing myself, I started to praise myself, to accept myself It was a completely different internal environment than what I was used to. So you could be thinking, all right, Laura, that's great. You get to go on a month-long road trip every summer, but I can't do that. I've got kids, I've got school and work, and that's expensive, and I'm very privileged to be able to do that. So what can you do? What is an option for you to do at home? Well, I invite you to sit with yourself and ask yourself a question, which is, what does beauty look like to you at this moment, right now? What does it look like? Is it external? Is it internal? And after you've sat with that question, start to think about, where did that come from? Did it come from your favorite singer, your favorite actress? Did it come perhaps from your mother? Because our mother's idols were these really teeny tiny skinny models. I think Twiggy was one of their models. I've heard my mom refer to her before, and I Googled this person, and she's 110 pounds soaking wet and probably sits at, I don't know, 5'9". That was what they were comparing themselves to. So I invite you to think about, who are you comparing yourself to? And is it working for you? Are you liking that goal you have in mind? Again, I invite you to try to sit down with yourself and actually think about what beauty means to you at this point in time. And where did that come from? And is it serving you? Is it working for you? Are you self-critical of yourself, or are you more self-compassionate? Are you having thoughts and feelings that are productive for your body rather than criticizing? Perhaps you need to come back to it multiple times to allow yourself that space and that openness to be honest with yourself of where this is all coming from. If you're not sure, next time you're on Instagram or watching Netflix, you'll start to notice that you start comparing yourself to someone else. And that's when you can start to kind of cue in on what beauty means to you. So become a little bit more mindful if that comparison or that judgmental stuff comes up while you're being stimulated by someone or something else. The next step is reclaiming your body as your own. Your body is for no one else other than yourself. You have to live in it. It's not for your husband, it's not for your boyfriend, it's not for your wife, it's not for anyone else. It's there for you to inhabit. So what do you want your body to look and feel like? What feels authentic to you? If you had no external influences telling you how to look, what would you want to look like? Ask yourself this question. It's a really great journal topic to think about. You will notice if you do this work and you sit with these 3 questions or ideas for a while, maybe even journal about them, write them down, or maybe talk to a trusted friend or loved one about it, you'll start to notice when other women start to self-deprecate all over the place, or when they start to body shame themselves. It almost can breed compassion in you to say, or to think that you know where that comes from. It comes from all these influences and external stuff that's telling us to look and feel a certain way. And when you reframe what beauty looks and feels like for yourself, you'll notice that your internal environment, the way that you think about yourself, the way that you treat yourself, will also improve. Some days are easier and other days are harder. But if you know where your beauty baseline is, where it comes from, what works for you, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, what triggers you, this is when you can catch yourself from body shaming, body grabbing, and judging other people and comparing yourself to other people. And on those hard days where you feel like your internal environment is being negative and critical, you can come back to your questions of, what does beauty mean to you? Where is it coming from? And is it working for you? And then you can go from there. And if you have any tips, tricks, or strategies of how you rebooted your beauty regime to make it more authentic and where it actually came from, I would love to hear from you. Reach out to me on social media. If you've tried some of these tricks that I have laid out in this podcast for you and they've worked, I would love to hear from you as well. If you have any questions or want more about this topic, again, reach out. I will read everything that you write to me. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Siljander podcast. Share it with a girlfriend. Talk about this subject so it's no longer taboo of what beauty means to the millennials now. It doesn't have to be skinny. It doesn't have to be what you think it is. Make it your own. Make it yourself and own it. Thanks again for joining me today, and I hope you practice compassion for yourself and with others wherever you go.